We have all been there. You are standing in a room. Perhaps it is a high-stakes board meeting, a family holiday dinner, or a casual gathering with friends. And suddenly the atmosphere shifts. Someone says something designed to cut you. It might be a passive-aggressive comment about your recent career choices. It might be a backhanded compliment that stings more than a direct slap. Or maybe it is a moment of blatant, loud disrespect. In that split second, biology takes over. Your amygdala, the primitive part of your brain responsible for survival, hits the panic button. Your heart rate spikes, the blood rushes to your face. Your hands might start to tremble. You feel a sudden overwhelming urge to react, to snap back, to defend your honor, to raise your voice, or to crumble and retreat into silence. This is the oldest game in human history. It is a transaction of power. They offer you chaos, and they wait to see if you will pay them back with your peace. But what if there was a third option? What if you could respond in a way that didn't just win the argument, but actually dissolved the conflict entirely? A response so grounded, so dignified, and so psychologically devastating to the aggressor that it leaves them holding their own toxicity, while you remain completely untouched. This is not about learning clever comebacks, or memorizing witty lines to impress a crowd. This is about mastering the art of Stoic composure. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the known world, Seneca, who advised a tyrant, and Epictetus, who survived slavery, did not live easy lives. They faced constant public attacks, betrayals, and political enemies who wanted them dead. They didn't survive by being louder than their enemies. They survived by being unbreakable. Today we are going to break down 5 specific intelligent responses derived directly from Stoic philosophy. We will explore the psychology behind why they work, the historical context of their origin, and exactly how to use them in the modern world to strip power away from disrespectful people and hand it back to you. By the end of this video, you will have a mental toolkit that ensures no one, no boss, no relative, no troll can ever steal your peace of mind again. We are building a community of strength here, a modern school of philosophy. By clicking that button, you are making a small but powerful commitment to your own growth. Welcome to the path, the foundation, the inner citadel. Before we hand you the weapons, we must build the fortress. You cannot use these responses effectively if your voice is shaking or your eyes are darting around the room in panic. The technique is useless without the mindset. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote a phrase in his private journals that serves as the foundation of all conflict resolution. It is not the thing itself that harms you, but your judgment of it, and you have the power to revoke this judgment at any moment. Think about the physics of an insult. When someone calls you incompetent or arrogant, what is actually happening? Sound waves are traveling through the air. They hit your eardrum. Your brain processes the language. Physically, you have not been touched. You have not been. The pain only arrives when you agree with the insult. The pain comes when your mind interprets the sound waves as a threat to your identity. The Stoics believed in building what they called the inner citadel. This is a fortress of the mind. Inside the citadel, there is reason, logic, and your true self. Outside the citadel is the noise of the world, the opinions of others, the insults, the praise, the gossip. When you are inside the fortress, you can look out of the window and see the arrows of insults flying toward you, but they fall harmlessly against the stone walls. They cannot touch you unless you open the gate and drag them inside. The following 5 responses are the locks on that gate. They are designed to keep the toxicity outside, where it belongs. Response 1. The Stoic pause, weaponized silence. The first response is the most primal, and often the most difficult to master. It isn't a word at all. It is a weaponized silence. When an aggressor attacks you verbally, they are working off a script. They anticipate a rhythm. They push, you push back. They insult, you defend. They raise their voice, you match their volume. This is a dominance loop. They are looking for a reaction to validate that they have impacted you. If you get angry, they win, because they have controlled your emotional state. If you react immediately, you have fallen into their trap. You are playing their game, on their turf, by their rules. Instead, you must utilize the Stoic pause. Here is how it works in a real scenario. Let's say you are in a meeting and a colleague interrupts you to say, "That's a naive idea, but I wouldn't expect you to understand the complexity here." Your instinct is to snap. "I understand it perfectly fine." Override that instinct. Do nothing. Look them directly in the eye. Not with aggression, not with a scowl, but with a look of mild, detached curiosity. Imagine you are a scientist, looking at a bug under a microscope. Hold that gaze for 3 or 4 seconds. Let the silence stretch out. In social dynamics, silence creates tension. Most people are terrified of this tension and will rush to fill it. If you are comfortable in the silence and they are not, you have instantly become the alpha in the room. After the pause, simply say, "Are you finished?" Or, if you want to be even more dismissal, say nothing at all. Turn your attention back to your notes and continue speaking as if they never existed. Why this works psychologically: silence acts as a mirror. When you refuse to fill the void with your own defensive noise, the other person's words hang in the air. Without your reaction to mask them, their words sound petty, harsh, and unreasonable. The room hears the echo of their rude. Author Robert Greene, in his analysis of power dynamics, notes that powerful people always speak less than those trying to impress them. By pausing, you signal that their words were not heavy enough to knock you off balance. You are communicating, without speaking, a very powerful message. Your opinion is not a command that requires my answer. Cato the Younger, the great Stoic senator who rivaled Julius Caesar, was known for this. When he was attacked in the Senate, screamed at, and even physically spat upon, he did not scream back. He stood his ground, wiped his face, and waited. His silence was louder than their shouting. It showed that he was the master of himself, while they were slaves to their emotion. Use the silence. Let them sit in the awkwardness they created. The response to the analytical question, the Socratic pivot. Sometimes, silence is not enough. Sometimes, the situation requires you to engage, perhaps to correct a record, or to manage a public situation. But you must not engage as a victim. You must engage as a scientist. The goal here is to shift the burden of explanation back onto the attacker. When someone throws a vague, passive-aggressive jab at you, for example, "You've been looking really tired lately," or "Must be nice to leave the office so early," your defensive brain wants to explain, "I'm not tired, just busy," or "I came in at 6 a.m. Stop. Explaining is losing. When you explain, you are validating their authority to judge you. Instead, use the analytical question. Treat their insult as an objective piece of data that you are genuinely confused by. Look at them calmly and ask, "I'm curious, what is your intention with that comment?" Or, "Why did you feel the need to say that to me right now?" The mechanics of this response. This technique forces the aggressor to switch from their emotional brain, the limbic system, to their logical brain, the prefrontal cortex. They cannot just rely on the feeling of anger. They now have to process a complex question about their own motives. You have now placed them in a double bind. They have 2 bad choices. They admit they were being mean. "I wanted to hurt your feelings." Socially, this is suicide. People almost never admit this, because it breaks the social mask of politeness. They backpedal. "Oh, I was just joking. Don't be so sensitive." When they say, "I was just joking," the game is over. You have won. You have exposed the insult for what it was, a cowardly attempt at dominance, and you have forced them to retreat and cover their tracks. This is the Socratic method, applied to conflict. Socrates was the wisest man in Athens, not because he preached, but because he asked questions, until his opponents revealed their own ignorance. Don't fight the darkness, just shine a light on it with a question, and watch the cockroach scramble for the shadow. Response 3. The agreement, the Amalfi maneuver. This next response is perhaps the most advanced, counterintuitive, and shocking technique in the Stoic arsenal. It requires true confidence. It comes from Epictetus, the philosopher, who spent his youth as a slave. Epictetus was physically disabled. He had a lame leg. He owned no property. By Roman standards, he was at the bottom of the hierarchy. He had every reason to be defensive about his status. Yet he taught his students that if someone insults you, you shouldn't deny it. You should agree with them, and then double down. He famously said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" Imagine the power of that. Let's translate that to a modern scenario. You are working on a project, and someone criticizes you publicly. They say you are so disorganized. This whole file is a mess. The standard response is denial. "No, I'm not. I organized it by day." The Stoic response. You look at them, smile genuinely, and say, "You're right. And honestly, I'm even worse than you think on days when I haven't had my coffee." You should see my desk at home. And then you move on to business. Why this is devastatingly effective. An insult acts like a tug-of-war rope. The other person pulls, expecting you to pull back. That tension is the conflict. It is the fuel for the drama. When you agree with them, you drop the rope. They go stumbling backward. You have removed the resistance. By agreeing, you are displaying invulnerability. You are showing that you know your own flaws. You accept them, and you are not afraid of them being pointed out. If you are not ashamed of yourself, no one can use shame as a weapon against you. This is the ultimate display of self-assurance. It says to the room, I accept myself so completely, flaws and all, that your disapproval means absolutely nothing to me. Use this for petty insults. Use it when someone tries to mock your appearance, your quirks, or your habits. You're so weird. Respond with I know. Being normal is terribly boring, isn't it? You steal their ammunition, you load it into your own gun, and you fire it into the sky as fireworks. You have disarmed them instantly. Response 4. The gift refusal, the discipline of assent. There is a famous story often attributed to the Buddha, but it perfectly aligns with the Stoic discipline of assent, the ability to choose which impressions we accept as true. The story goes that a man was shouting insults at a sage. He cursed him, mocked his family, and screamed until he was out of breath. The sage sat there listening patiently, completely unbothered. Finally, the aggressor, panting and frustrated, asked, "Why are you not angry? I have humiliated you." The sage replied with a calm question, "If you buy a gift for someone, and that person refuses to take it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man was confused. "Well," he said, "it would still belong to me." The sage nodded. "Exactly. You have come here with a gift of anger and insult. I do not accept it. So it still belongs to you." How to use this in real life. When someone is venting their frustration at you, when they are projecting their insecurities onto you, you need to visualize their words as a physical object. A package of radioactive Just because the mailman brings a package to your door does not mean you have to sign for it. You can leave it on the porch. Your verbal response can be a simple acknowledgement of their state, without accepting their premise. Use phrases like "I hear that is your opinion," or "I see that you feel strongly about that." Note the specific language. That is your opinion. You are verbally drawing a boundary line in the sand. You are separating their thoughts from your reality. You are refusing to merge your identity with their perception. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that the opinions of others are subjective. They are colored by that person's mood, their trauma, and their limited information. If someone calls you stupid, that is not a descriptor of your intelligence. It is a descriptor of their current perception. By saying "I hear that is your opinion," you are closing the gate of the inner citadel. You are letting them keep their gift. You are staying clean. Response 5. Compassionate pity. The view from above. This final response is the most powerful because it involves a total paradigm shift. It shifts you from the position of a victim to the position of a healer. The Stoics believe that bad behavior is a result of ignorance or internal suffering. Socrates argued that no one does evil willingly. They do it because they mistakenly think it will bring them happiness or relief. Seneca wrote, "All cruelty springs from weakness." Think about that deeply. Happy, confident, secure, fulfilled people do not go around destroying others. They do not leave hate comments. They do not bully coworkers. Only people who are hurting, fearful, or deeply insecure feel the need to attack others to elevate themselves. When you realize this, you stop seeing your enemy as a monster. You start seeing them as a patient. You start seeing them as a small wounded child throwing a tantrum. When someone is being particularly nasty, shouting, or being unreasonable, do not get angry. Look at them with genuine concern. Soften your face. Ask them, "You seem really upset today. Is everything okay?" Why this destroys the dynamic. This response flips the script entirely. It breaks the frame of fight. You are now in the frame of help. It highlights their instability. By asking if they are okay, you are subtly pointing out that they are acting irrationally, but you are doing it under the guise of kindness. It is very difficult for someone to keep screaming at a person who is looking at them with pity. It makes the aggressor feel foolish. It makes them feel small, not because you crushed them with an insult, but because you acted like the only adult in the room. This draws on the Stoic concept of the view from above. When you zoom out, you see that this person's anger is just a tiny flicker of emotion in a vast universe. It is not a threat to you. It is not a threat to you. It is just a symptom of their own struggle.
When you respond with you are proving that your peace is so abundant, so overflowing, that you can afford to offer some of it to them, even when they're attacking you. That is the ultimate power move. That is true strength. That inclusion, the practice of freedom, now a necessary warning. These techniques, the pause, the analytical question, the agreement, the refusal, and the compassionate pity, are not magic spells. They are martial arts moves for the mind, and like any martial art, they require practice. The first time you try to use the pause, your heart will still be racing. The first time you try to agree with an insult, your ego will scream in protest. You will want to fight back. That is normal. Stoicism is not a destination. It is a practice. It is a muscle that you tear down and build back stronger. But imagine what your life would look like 6 months from now if you started training this muscle today. Imagine walking into work without the fear of criticism. Imagine family gatherings, where the usual drama flows around you like water around a rock. Imagine knowing, deep in your soul, that your self-worth is no longer up for negotiation. You become dangerous to toxic people, not because you are harmful, but because you are ungovernable. They can no longer push your buttons, because you have disconnected the wiring. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. If you shout back, you become them. You lower yourself to their frequency. If you stay silent, if you stay rational, if you stay kind, you remain yourself, and preserving your character is the only victory that matters. So the next time you face disrespect, remember, you have a choice. You are not a slave to your instinct. You are a rational human being, with a fortress of the mind. Take a breath, look them in the eye, and choose the response that keeps your peace intact. I want you to try something for me. In the comments below, I want you to write which of these 5 responses you need to practice the most right now. Is it the pause? Is it the agreement? Write it down, make a commitment to yourself, and remember, you cannot control how others behave, but you control how you receive, and in that control lies your freedom. See you in the next video.